It's a curse and a blessing. Excuse me. You know, if we make a camshaft better, then we have to make a better spring. But if you make a better spring, then all of a sudden that gives us a little bit of latitude to go back and work on the cam again and outrun the spring. So it just keeps raising the bar as we go along, and that's why you see the performance level of some of these cars so phenomenal today.
The metallurgical improvement you talk about, what does it mean in reality for the lifter itself?
Well, what we had was a lifter that the bearing on the bottom where it ran against the cam had some issues wearing out. And the little needles in there would go flat and turn to powder, and it'd just wear that thing out and cause a failure of the lifter and eventually of the engine. So what we did is we found a different axle. We made the axle now out of tool steel, so it'll help the wear. The little needles in there, we had them sorted so they're all exactly the right size. I find that when we didn't sort those properly and we didn't know any better, they'd be like 20 microns. I mean, just almost unmeasurable difference in diameter. But if you had one that's just a few microns larger in diameter, it carries the whole load and won't spread it out.
It's like the high spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we had that going on. And then another thing we did is we EDM'd, which is where they take electronic discharge.
It's an electronic discharge machining.
Yes. And they put a little bitty tiny hole in there, and they direct oil, pressure-fed oil, right into that bearing. So we have cool, new oil all the time to take the heat away. The needles are all the same size, and then we have that tool steel axle.
Is this now pretty much standardized across your roller cam line?
It is. It's pretty much it's actually been installed in all of those things for about the last 6 months, and we're just now beginning to talk about it.
You know, the key to success in getting a camshaft to work, you relate right back to the valve spring. If the valve spring can't keep the valve closed, it really doesn't matter what kind of grind you have on it. The technology in valve springs has been growing as well, and have you been responsible for it, or did you have to depend on outside suppliers?
Well, in the past, we've never had real control over the valve spring. We've worked with different people along the way, but we've never really had the control we needed. And right now, we're just putting the finishing touches on a joint venture with a company where we're going to put a manufacturing cell for valve springs right there in our facility. So right there in our R&D department where we have spintrons and we're always testing valve trains, right next to it we'll have a valve spring cell. So we can go over here and test a cam and a system, make springs until we get it completely ironed out where we want it to be, and then we'll have the ultimate system at that point.
Are you planning on producing valve springs in-house, or will you come up with what you want and then farm the job out?
Well, we'll do it a couple of ways. One is on the very high-end springs like the NASCAR springs and the Pro Stock springs and so forth, we'll probably do them in-house because we're talking about a spring that may be maybe $150 a piece for the valve springs.
Right.
But we'll do that, and then we'll also do all the development springs. So we'll do everything that it takes to write the recipe, if you will, for a valve spring, and then we may hand that off to one of the plants that's associated with this company and let them actually produce them in volume, just so we can keep the price down to a manageable level.
Sure. You mentioned racing, Pro Stock, of course. You have been the dominant cam in that for years, and NASCAR. Your relationship with NASCAR is much deeper than most people realize.
It is. I've personally been involved with a lot of the car owners and the engine builders and all in NASCAR for many, many years. Jack Roush and I are really good friends. Richard Childress and I basically started in business about the same time. Richard, when he was driving and building engines and everything else, used to call and get parts from me. So we've sort of grown together through this.
How many teams out there are currently using comp cams?
All but one.
All but one?
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that Comp Cams is the leader in the NASCAR world as well. Scooter, thank you very much. We look forward to continuing seeing great new products out of Comp.
Always a pleasure to be here, and you can rest assured that we're not going to just kick back. We're going to keep it going.
Never had any doubts, my man. Scooter Brothers, the director of R&D for Comp Cams.